and I'm going to warm up. So I'm going to go into the light box. We got a Dynamesh Sphere 128, Dynamesh Sphere 32, Dynamesh Sphere 64. Let's go with 64. That seems like a nice number. And we're going to go ahead and hit X symmetry. I'm going to turn perspective off because that's just how I roll. And we're going to go ahead and turn the floor off. So there we go. So we're going to start. We got X symmetry turned on. And like usual, I'm going to go in here and I'm turn off align cursor to surface. Preferences. Oh boy. Edit. Turn off align cursor to surface. Just because when I'm sculpting, I don't necessarily need to have that on. Also, I like to take up my lazy radius on my standard brush. By default, it's on at 1. But I usually like to have on lazy radius there to get nice smooth strokes. And if I don't want that, tap L. That'll get rid of it. Hey, thanks for showing up. I'm just doing a little bit of a warm-up here where I'm just going to kind of sculpt a little bit because it is so very cold. So what we're going to do is let's make some sort of a head here. So I'm going to go and grab a primitive. You can go BI, brush insert, base primitives, and then grab a sphere. And because we're working in Dynamesh, you can just stuff together and then drag it together and then go in here with our clay brush, our clay buildup, and we can start just kind of making stuff as we see fit. We can also go in here to clip, let's say clip curve, and we can like go through here and we can clip some stuff back and go to the side. And again, even if you wanted to work with a bunch of primitives, if I'm just doing sculpting primitive stuff, I'll just grab high resolution primitives. If I'm doing more Z modeler stuff, I'll grab like a 12 or a 16 sided cylinder, but then we can go in here, we can say split mass points, and now we've got 2 primitives here. And if we want to, again, we can just drag in. Let's drag down the middle here, and we can go ahead and reset this, and then we'll scale it out, and then we'll move it around. And when I'm working, and let's go ahead and just do a mirror and weld, make sure that's mirrored across the x-axis. In fact, let's merge everything down temporarily, and then we can mirror and weld this, and then we can go back here if we want to split the parts. And I'll split them back out to their respective subtools here. So if this is my starting point here, I like to work within, see how I'm going, I'm kind of capping out. That's because we started with the ZBrush primitive, and then we're getting bigger from that. One way to rectify that is under Preferences, Draw. You can go up here, you can change your max brush size to like 5,000. You can also change this dynamic brush scale, so it'll scale larger. But I like to work within what ZBrush has unless I have a reason to bring something in at its own scale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here. I'm just going to merge all this stuff down. You can also do merge visible. And then we're going to go down here to deformation unify. That'll make it essentially the size, if I go in here and append a cube, the size of a ZBrush primitive, the whole thing. And that'll keep it kind of not workable. Of course, it's workable within ZBrush, but there we go. And then, of course, we still have our Dynamesh properties turned on. I'm going to turn off blur and just keep going here. So now I can go through here, and we can start sculpting this out. And go in here with our move brush, or move acu, or your clay, or your clay hook, snake hook here. And there we go. We got some sort of a little base mesh to start. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. I should probably have the Facebook event up and running. Hold on just a second. Let me go to, am I intrepid? Okay, so if you do, speaking of, if you do need to get caught up, so here's the Pavlovich workshop. You can scroll all the way down here at episode 1. This is what I do on Tuesday mornings, streaming on Pixelogic website. And also, if you go to my YouTube channel, my stream, I stream on Thursday mornings. Now, again, what I'm probably going to end up doing is streaming Tuesday mornings, the first Tuesday of the month, the first Thursday of the month. If you go to my YouTube channel, you can go to playlists, and if you go to live stream full episodes, here's all my live streams, and there's like 200 in there, and then there's live stream highlights as well. If you do go to live stream full episodes, and just give me a minute, there's going to be ZBrush Summit Demo Day 1, 2, should be 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll go back through and find out where Day 3 went. I think. No, it might just be Day 1, 2, and 3. I might have mislabeled that because my brain doesn't work so good sometimes. So anyway, there's the ZBrush Summit demo. So when I did a ZBrush Summit, in fact, if you go to the Pixelogic ZBrush page and you stop this auto running, oh, there I am, I'm streaming. If you go over here where it says ZBrush Summit 2018, using ZBrush to facilitate smarter production with certain affinity, you can watch my ZBrush Summit presentation. where I just kind of go through and talk about, production and mechs and weapons and characters and all that good stuff and hair and tubes. And then through this, we have a PDF document that I went through, and we basically on my YouTube channel, there's the ZBrush Summit 2018 demo. So there's 96 videos in here where we basically went through and talked about every single demo in detail and kind of went through all that. So I can link you guys to that. Don't need to disable Polymer there. There you go. Hey, the Grubber, thanks for showing up. Okay, so I'm done. I'm done with all that. So if you guys have any questions, just shout them out. I don't have anything hardcore to work on today or anything like that. What I am doing is one of my CGMA students was doing some alien head busts, and so I figured I would go through here and maybe sculpt some variants and have some techniques to go through and like kind of just, let's turn on transparency here. Go through and do some really crazy variants, because you can have a lot of fun with alien sculpts, obviously. And I'm actually gonna bump this up to maybe say like 90-ish as we're working here. So we have this here. I'm gonna go ahead and thin him out just a little bit here, and I'm also gonna maybe tilt him forward a bit and maybe grab his head or her head here, and then we'll blur that out, and we'll just take this gizmo here. We'll go ahead and just kind of stretch that out a bit. And the cool thing about Dynamesh is you're able to just kind of grab and pull. And you can also do that with snake hook. So if I go in here in my standard brush, or not just snake hook, but any brush minus some, you can go through here, and with Sculptors Pro turned on, it'll just kind of continue subdividing as you pull out. So it gives you a lot of flexibility and leeway to do some really, really crazy stuff if you want to. Or like B key to bring up your brushes, S to bring up all the S brushes, and then you can go in here and you can do like spirals and stuff, and it'll just continue. And depending on your brush size, it'll continue to, it'll make it finer detail or broader detail, kind of depends. If you want more info on that, of course you can go to the Pixologic Classroom, but my resources, again, go to my YouTube channel, and then the ZBrush 2018 What's New talks all about in detail all the new stuff that was in ZBrush 2018 and all the Sculptors Pro stuff and all that functionality, as well as ZBrush 4R8 What's New has a lot of cool stuff in there. If you're kind of newer-ish to ZBrush, or even if you've been using ZBrush for a while, there might be some stuff you missed. So anyway, we got a guy going, and of course this is very humanoid. When I'm smoothing, so I have Sculptors Pro turned on, and when I smooth, you can actually just smooth down to nothing. Or you could even smooth down the middle and go bloop and take it out. That's one of the functions of Sculptors Pro. But I also, when I'm doing sculpting, and I'm just using Dynamesh and not necessarily Sculptris, I'll use Smooth Stronger. Just gives me a little bit more leeway, and if I want to hold down Shift and then drop that intensity down, it just gives me a little bit more range than the regular smooth brush there. So you can maybe use that. And like I said before, this first alien we're doing is a little bit more humanoid, so obviously there's recognizable traits in here, and we can exaggerate maybe these cavities here. So we have some sort of a collarbone, and let's go ahead and just mask this out and pull this down here. Again, just give us a little bit more breathing room here. And then now we can go through here. So for building up stuff, I like to use the clay brush. If you want to modify, because you can also use clay buildup or clay tubes, and that'll give you that intensity is a little much for me, so I usually drop it down just a bit. But alternatively, you can also go in your clay brush here, or you can throw in an alpha in that, maybe raise the intensity on that clay brush, and that'll kind of give you a happy medium between the two. So we can go through here, and we can like, okay, put a little separation in here for a little peck, and then a little peck, a little delt, a little trap, and also little sternocleidomastoid here. And we're just going through, and you can also just go right down the middle here. We can put in a nice cut through here. We can also go in with our Damien standard brush. And for our brushes, a lot of hotkeys. So if I want to go standard brush, move brush, clay buildup, clay tubes, trim dynamic, H polish, all the brushes I use all the time, assign hotkeys, super easy. Go in here, hold down Control Alt tap up in the upper left-hand corner, hit a key combination to assign, Alt-K, and now when I hit Alt-K, we have a deco brush. So, and also you can assign it to custom hotkeys. You see me going in here in my custom menu here. If you go to my YouTube channel, and again, there's a lot more resources for this, but I know where this is. If you go to the Intro to ZBrush Part 2, right here, I'll walk you through custom hotkeys, custom menus, custom interface, stuff like that. Double says, I just missed what you told us about those brushes. Did you talk about ZBrush 2018 brushes or your personal brush pack? I don't really have a personal brush pack, and I don't really have a whole lot of personal brushes, like maybe this one, I made it, base primitive spheres and stuff. So you can make your own custom insert mesh brushes and then go up here to brush, save as. And in fact, let's do this. So we'll go to brush here and we're going to go to modifiers. And under here where it says multi-mesh selector, I'm going to crank that to 3. And now if you drag out, it'll cycle randomly through your brush pack or your custom insert mesh brush. So you can do that. And then if you want, you can go in here to brush, hold down Alt and say select icon. It'll go ahead and capture this, and then you can go to brush, save as. And then of course, if you want it to show up in your light box, you can go to ZBrush 2018 ZBrushes. And then here, when you hit the comma key, that's where it'll show up. So if you don't use it that much, you can throw it in there. If you use it all the time, go to ZBrush 2018 Z Startup Brush Presets, throw it in here, then every time you start up ZBrush, that'll show up in ZBrush, and you can assign a hotkey to it. And in case you need to know this, under ZBrush 2018 Z Data Brush Presets, you see I have presets copy and presets old. And here, if you change these are the default ZBrush brushes. So if you ever want to make changes to these settings, you can save over them in here. I would suggest copying that folder out just in case you need to go back. But anyway, we can go ahead and, so this guy has a bunch of polygroups. If you do Control-Shift, then Control-Shift-A, Control-Shift get a polygroup, Control-Shift-A to grab all the selected vertices. I can just go to Geometry, Modify Topology, Delete Hidden, and I'm back where I started here. Question, is panel loop the best option if you have different items and you want to make a specific style of seam on all their polygroups border? Is there a way to attain the seam without separating the item in many pieces with a back face? Panel loops is an okay option. Sometimes I don't have as much control as I'd like, but I do use it. Is there a way to obtain the seam without? Yeah, you can. So in fact, let's say we got this and we want to do put some clothing on him. So maybe we want to put a neck piece with some padding on it just for some armor. So what we can do is we're going to duplicate this guy off. I'm going to hit Control W, make this all one polygroup here. Hold down Control Shift, we're going to go into Trim Curve. I'm going to go ahead and trim his head off, and we'll go ahead and trim down here. So we just have this little piece right here. Now at this point, I can go in here to you go to your deformation menu, the tool menu, polish by features, and if you do that, it'll go ahead and keep these nice and crispy and then smooth this stuff out. You can also do open circle and polish that as well. If you also want, we can hold down Control Shift, isolate this part, and then do delete hidden, and then go to your geometry Z-remesher. Just take a data size down to 0, hit Z-remesher, and then we can just, let's hit half. And then we can just keep Z-remeshing this. Now sometimes it might do this type of thing. Let's go ahead and grab our weld points. Let's do this. Let's go into Z-modeler here and let's do bridge, not bridge 2 points, stitch 2 points. So we'll go here to here, here to here, and let's just, that didn't really work very well. Let's do a right down the middle. Hit, go out of X symmetry here. We're going to stitch, and this is your Z-modeler brush, BZM. We're going to take this, we're going to move it over, and then we'll just do a quick geometry, modify topology, mirror, and weld, and then turn X back on. So now this way, if you keep doing Z-remesh half, and like so, and then you can go through here if you want and do a polygroup polyloop, and then just make these separate polygroups, and I'm just doing every other one. Kind of depends on how thick you want these ribs, like so. Now at this point, you can go down here and you can do geometry, edge loop, crank up that thickness. You can keep polish on, and now you can do polygroups like this. And of course, this does give you the double-sided Control-Shift-A. You can grab it. However, you can also go through here, and if you turn off double, and do panel loops, it'll just do one-sided. Of course, you're going to have thin meshes. I don't really like that. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go up here to cap. Let's do close convex hole, and we'll just cap the top, and we'll cap the bottom. And I want these to have the same polygroup as these. So I'm going to hold down Control. Let's undo that. That's going to get fused. I'm going to go ahead and close. I'm going to tap Alt to make sure I get a new polygroup. I'm going to grab all of these polygroups, hit Control W, grab all of these polygroups here. You know, with both these showing, let's just do an auto groups, and that's under your polygroup menu. So now that I have that, it's nice and capped. If I go through here and I do a panel loops, smooth, or this polish is going to really polish my objects. If I turn that off, that won't polish them. So now with this, with double off, and you hold down Shift and smooth, these will all be stuck together. If we have double on, all of these will be separate. Control Shift A. So there you go. And then we'll do Control Shift, and there you go. So that way, that would be a way to use panel loops. And of course, I did ZBrush because I like having nice clean geometry in case I need to go in here and do like inset, polygroup, all region, and I want to like inset these, and then QMesh, polygroup island, and then like pull this in maybe, or just pull this in with ZBrusher, and then hit D for dynamic, you know, and have, you know, go through and sculpt even, or model even more. But if I take this undo slider, we go all the way back to where we just had our Dynamesh stuff. You can work, you don't have to work that clean. You can actually just take this one here, like so, and you can just go through here, and like we were doing, you can slice, and slice, and slice, and then you can go through here and do your whole geometry, panel loops here, and we just keep that. Oh, let's turn that polish back on. That polish really helps when you're working with not so desirable geometry to get you a usable result. So you can just, if you're just doing concepty stuff, you can do that. And then that can be kind of like a padding shell or something like that that you can build on top of. So that would be that. So anyway, we got our guy here, or girl. It looks pretty masculine to me. So again, we're just going through here, and we're just going to carve in where these, you know, just putting in some landmarks here. We're getting some landmarks in here. If I missed anything, it's this chat was being a goober. So putting our landmarks in here, we've got our collarbone, goes to his acromion process, and obviously he's of humanoid descent. So we're going to put our little scapula ridge in here. It goes acromion process, and we'll go through here. And now we've got some traps in here. And of course, you can, you know, you're building up here. We can put a little C7 in there, kind of bump that out a little bit. And we can start adding in maybe some surface detail. There's some surface, and we can start adding in maybe some surface detail. There's some surface properties. So question, do you have a list of the brush hotkeys you use? I'm trying to kill. Okay, yeah, I do. So in fact, if you go to either my Gumroad page or my ZBrush page, I'm not trying to sell you on anything, this is all free. Scroll all the way down and to the intro to ZBrush files, and in here you can download my custom interface, and my custom hotkeys are included with that. Also, all I need to do, if you know, I can copy paste this to you guys if you want. So, or you can just look at it here because they're not there's nothing special about them. But I'll go to ZBrush data, Z startup hotkeys, and there's a little hotkeys.txt in here. These are my hotkeys. So Alt S for standard brush. Alt C for clay tubes, Damien standard, Alt D, inflate, Alt I, pinch, Alt Y. So these are my hotkeys here that you can check out. I guess I can. Clay tubes, Damien standard, Alt D, inflate, Alt I, pinch, Alt Y. All right, Facebook is being goofy. Cool. All right, so we're going to go through here, and again, we're talking about, you know, just doing some anatomy sculpting, and also not just like écorché or anything. You can go through here and you can start putting in some landmarks. You can start dictating, like, you know, the back of the head's going to have a little bit of wrinkles, so a little bit more surface anatomy here, and we can maybe have a little bit of fun. This, you know, pull out like, you know, when your jawbone comes down this way, and then underneath here you'll have a little bit of build up here, and you can give him like maybe a frilly neck here, or depending on, you know, what type of animal you're trying to make here. You can go through here and again just look at good reference and try to come up with something interesting. So you can go through here, we'll pull this back a little bit so we can make big move changes. And we're not doing anything refined. We're not like zero meshing this just yet. It's more of just kind of getting our ideas out. Let's pull out like a little bit of that under chest plate here. And go in here with our Damien standard, even our clip brush at that point. We'll go ahead and just carve this in just a little bit. Like so. So yeah, we can go through here, and we've already got his traps, and then in here we can have his scapula. Scapular muscles, anyways, is infraspinatus, and his teres major, teres minor, all that good stuff, and then his little delts, like we were talking about here, here, overlapping. So we got the little kind of block in here. Now for the head, anything can go, right? So we can just do like, oh, a humanoid head, or we can do like maybe a spider head, or we can do something bizarre, you know, put his eyes down here and his mouth up here or something like that. So hey, if you wanted to do a little more humanoid, we'll start humanoid and then we'll get crazy. So we'll just do, you know, halfway down the head, here is your eye line here. So if you have your eye line, and again, this is like sketching, but in 3 dimensions. So if you, I mean, we can turn perspective back on. So if you're ever doing this and you want to just draw over it, this is a good way to start. You know, we're dictating the draft of the face here. So it's going, you know, you top down, your face is kind of going backwards, and this is pretty exaggerated. That's okay. And that's why aliens are so fun to sculpt in ZBrush, and why everybody does them, is because there's no wrong answers. So we can go through here, and then from the side view here, we have our brow ridge. So we can say, give me a little more of a brow ridge here, and then you know, feminine foreheads tend to be a little bit more, you know, up and rounded with a very flat brow ridge. Male heads can tend to be a little bit more backward, like lean back a little bit, and then coming through here and accentuating that brow ridge, really digging those eyes in deep. Halfway between, so there's your eye line down the middle, and also the eye line matches up with the back, the occipital protuberance of your skull there, so that's where your traps are going to attach. And you know, halfway down the side here is where your ears are going to go, so your ears would be kind of here, and then your jawline goes down this way. So brow to chin, halfway is about your nose here, and then in between here, your lip, your upper lip, well, your lip line is going to favor a little bit higher than that, and then you're really like in between the bottom of the nose here, and the chin would be the lower lip line, like so. So again, the mouth is one of those things you're going to want to make sure it curves around the face here. We can kind of punch these in a little bit. And again, we're working loose. This is literally like if we were doing a sketch, little napkin sketch. Go through here. So there's a step down. So you got the brow that steps back to the upper eyelid, steps back to the lower eyelid, steps back to the cheekbone here. And then over here you're going to have the labial folds on either side of the face, and then the mouth, all that good stuff. So again, we're just kind of blocking something out here. And you know, we blocked out a human face, so not really super alien, but we can play around with this a little bit. Once you have it, you can start playing around proportions and kind of have a little bit of fun with this. You can maybe dig in those ridge lines here. And again, depending on the kind of type of character you're making, if you want to accentuate the masculinity of it, and again, we're just talking in very, very general terms here, you can really accentuate that brow ridge, really deep set those eyes, give them like a little bruiser nose, little cauliflower ear. You know, it's kind of like we're making a boxer alien. And again, it's just a start. You know, we're not trying to make a humanoid alien. You can also go borrow body parts, BI brush insert, and we'll go through here and we'll just grab an ear. You can just grab this ear. And then now, yeah, he's a boxer style dude, and we'll go in here and we'll say we can scale these up. But you're going to notice it's going to scale away and towards. Make sure you're trying an LSIM. That'll be your local axis here, and then you can rotate this out and do whatever you need to make that work. Also, you can go in here and give them little Spock ears. There also might be BI brush insert tune. There might be some stuff in here we can steal, borrow. Base ear, giant ear, there's ears in there. Also another one I like, hit the comma key, go to your brushes, excuse me. insert IMM. You got the dragon brush in here. So you can sometimes go grab cool things in here, and they don't even have to be, you know, leg assembly or a tooth. You can grab a tooth here. And for this one, let's go ahead and say visibility, geometry visibility, hide point, and we'll just do geometry modified topology delete hidden. And you can just grab any of these shapes here. Let's go this side here. Start with whatever you'd like. Also, depending on your resolution of your mesh, you can also go through, it looks like the flash. You can go into, and I might have missed some here. You should create a custom menu which can be opened on the canvas via hotkey. Yeah, so custom menu, like I said, the Intro to ZBrush Part 2 will walk you through how to make a real quick custom menu. And then for the Pav Mic menu here, which is Pav Custom here, all I do is hold Control Alt, so I can do that for like transform, Control Alt, assign this to like Alt bracket, and now every time I hit Alt bracket, it's like a little flying menu right here. I have access to it. So it's simply a matter of making a custom menu, then assigning a hotkey to it. And hopefully this is the last time. If it cuts out again, I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay, so we were having a little bit of fun with this guy. He doesn't look super alien, he looks super human. So let's change a little bit of this. And you know what, let's Google like reptile animal here. And you know what we'll do, you know, let's do like a crocodile or something like that. So we can go ahead and extend his face out. So let's go ahead and mask here. I mean, if you want to like keep this as a variant, that's totally valid. Like keep these things around. You can also start at a different point. If you want to drop way back, you can start at a base mesh and copy it out. So what we can do is we can like duplicate this off. We can turn it off so you don't see it anymore. And if you want to go back to his base, we can just go back to a base mesh. We can duplicate that off, you know, and then you can come back forward. So we have now, if we go into solo mode here, we have this sculpt, we have our base mesh, and then we have this sculpt again. So we can start from this sculpt here. We do a variant. So we're in solo mode, but we can go through and just turn these eyeballs off. If you want to turn them all on, if it's selected, you can hold down Shift and turn everything on. Hold down Shift, turn everything off. So let's go ahead and change his head a little bit here. Mask this, and we'll go ahead and reset these. You're going to see kind of it goes X symmetry. Turn X symmetry off, go to Unmatched Mesh Center, turn it back on, reset the pivot by holding down Alt. And this is in the ZBrush 4R8, what's new. And you can kind of play with this a little bit here. So now in order to support a bigger head, we'll go ahead and give him a little bit of a bigger neck here. And in fact, actually, let's do this. Let's make him a little bit more rotated this way. So maybe he has long arms that kind of allow him to support that. And then we kind of stretch his head out a little bit here, and we'll really kind of exaggerate this area here. And again, we'll just kind of thicken up this neck here. And then for his head, we can go ahead and get rid of this cone part back here. And again, feel free to use Sculptors Pro or Dynamesh or whatever you want. And if he's going to be more crocodilian, we can go through here and we can exaggerate. You know, his mouth would be, and his nose would be a little more like this. And we can kind of just dig in where we think this mouth would go. Maybe it starts up here and then it goes down and then goes back up. And then we got like a little ear hole back here. And then these could all just be mouth folds. You know, and this is just the illusion. We're just showing you, giving you the indication that when he opens his mouth, there will be a lot of skin over here just kind of folded up. It's nothing beautiful yet. And again, we can still maintain that brow ridge if we want to. And let's go ahead and give him, you know, predatory eyes. They're going to be forward facing. You can have eyes on the side of your head. And actually, you know, crocodiles are predators. They have eyes on the sides of their head. So you can play around with that too if you want to. But you can always give them a little bit more forward vision here. We can kind of dictate, okay, here's this. And again, if you can still kind of mix and match. You can play with like, okay, do cheekbones or a cheekbone structure kind of work, or does it take away from what you're trying to go for? You can also exaggerate maybe an underbite here. You can put some gnarly teeth in there, and those can all be insert mesh brushes, but for now we can just go into snake hook and just be like, let me Let me kind of see what kind of look we're going for here. Now, this is something I want to pursue. So if I do want to pursue that, I can. If I don't, I can go in here and smooth it down or turn on Sculptors Pro, and that'll really go through here and take it back down to nothing. Again, just having fun, and you can indicate like maybe a little breathing. Maybe his breathing holes are up here. And then maybe, again, we were playing around with the idea of his mouth being somewhere a little bit more like this. And a lot of this, too, is, you know, if you have a lot of practice, you know, sculpting a lot of animals, which I really don't. I don't do a ton of creature work. But the more you practice with it, the more comfortable you are just kind of riffing, because you've already had that experience of creating a bunch of animals. So really, just make a lot of animals. And Damien Standard, and that should kind of help. Now, if you are running out of, you know, again, we're just doing a sketch. So we can go through here, we can, but you don't want to go too, like if it's like, oh, I want to detail the hell out of this. You can go into Sculptors Pro, and the smaller you make your brush, the more resolution you're going to get. So you can go through here, and you can start adding resolution as needed if you want to go through and just kind of detail up little individual places. And then I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but I guess I am. I'm saying you shouldn't do that. No, I'm saying you can do this. There's nothing wrong with it. That flexibility is never a bad thing. However, what I generally try to do is, let's go ahead and knock this back here. And if you want to even that geometry right back out again, your Dynamesh will do that for you. But just kind of staying loose and kind of, you know, keeping your sketch and bringing everything up at once. So, you know, while you're doing this kind of thing, it's staying kind of a sketch, and you're just bringing everything, like I said, everything's kind of rezzing in all at once. And, oh, yeah, that's the other thing I was going to mention. So under Brush, Chisel 3D, Chisel Creature, these are your vector displacement brushes. These are 4R8, I believe. So you can use these to kind of vector displace your meshes. Now, it's not a whole lot of resolution. If I go through here and I up the resolution by subdividing or going in and raising the resolution of my Dynamesh, you'll see that that kind of works out a little bit better. The cool thing about these brushes is you can not only just go through and just kind of pull out, and these are, you know, teeth, but you can use them as horns, you can use them as ears, whatever you want. You can also go through, and because it's a brush, you can change it to like a dot stroke, and you can just drag out, you know, the same size. You can also go in here as a, I'm sorry, not a dot stroke, so drag dot, and then dot stroke, you can just drag out along as you're stroking thick to thin, and then you can go up here to your stroke menu, make sure you turn on lazy mouse, and then change that lazy step, so it goes and then you can go in here and you can say, you know what, I want it to be closer together, so decrease that lazy step, or I want it to be further apart, so increase that lazy step. So now you can go down through here and very quickly just start populating this kind of stuff. Now it can be insert mesh brushes if you want. You can insert mesh along a curve, but again, if you're just concepting and just getting your ideas out, this is usually fine. Also, so you can see we can go thin to big to small to big underneath your brush menu here. Modifiers, texture, and where is it? Alpha and texture. You can go down here and there is a low magnify and a high magnify. If I crank that high magnify up, as I'm small, and then as I go big, it's going to kind of inflate and magnify, and then as I go small again, it'll do that. So that's another option you can have if you want that functionality. I got this going, and I wish Restream would allow me to see the Facebook chat, but it won't for whatever reason. So we're going to go through here. We'll cut this down. And again, you're looking for like indications of if he is going to have skin wrinkles, go ahead and put those in on the back of his head here and underneath his jaw here if he's going to have a bunch of skin wrinkles, and also where his mouth goes and kind of comes to the back and then up and around. You can exaggerate a little bit, and again, you're just giving indications of surface changes. But again, we're running out of resolution here, so you can keep this as like a quick sketch and then move on to your next one. But if you want to start refining this a little bit more, one thing you can do is go to your resolution, and we'll crank that up a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and re-Dynamesh. And again, you can use Sculptors Pro to dictate where that resolution goes, but again, I'm just going to slowly move up through the resolution here, and then now we can go through here and start, sculpting in. So now I'm actually, before I start doing eyelids and stuff, I'm going to first carve in his line of sight so he can actually see through his bony areas, and then I can start going through here and dialing in maybe a little cheekbone and a little lower eyelid here, and we'll add eyeballs later. But before I do that, I'm going to make sure we're going in the direction that we want to go. But before we get too far, there's a lot of really cool stuff we can do. So let's go to, just like we were doing the chisel brush, let's go back to our brush dragon bones here. I'm going to take one of these dragon bones, and we can, of course, insert dragon bones all we want. And also, let's grab another one. Let's grab this one here. There we go. Another thing we can do is we can have this dragon bone. Let's go to stroke, turn on curve mode, and now we can just drag that dragon bone along a curve, and it'll kind of follow our mesh here. And alternatively, and you can do all sorts of different settings and make that work for you. Also, we can go to, let's go ahead and turn that off. And I'm going to put one right down the middle here. We're going to go to split mask points. I'm going to move this down below just because that's where I want it. And I'm going to go to X, unmesh mesh center. We're going to rotate that so it's down the middle here. Let's do a quick mirror and weld. So now we have a bone right down the middle. And now we can also go in here to array mesh, and we can say turn on array mesh, turn on transpose, lock size. Let's go ahead and let's reset that a little bit. And so here is where the gizmo is. If you hit Y, we go back to transpose, and I like to use transpose with array mesh because it gives me, I can go through here and I can set where my copy is going to go, and I can also go through here to the repeats, and just very quickly, without having to resort to going over here, I can quickly go through here. I can even change it to scale. Oops, I can set my pivot differently, but I can also go in here to scale. I can scale these things out or in, like so. I can rotate. That's the pivot here. I can rotate along that path, like so. All that good stuff. I can also use deformers for this, so I can hit W, go back into my deformer, and then we'll set our pivot down the path. And now we can go through here and we can say bend curve. Oh, it's only doing it because for that first one. Well, let's do a bend arc. So this is our array mesh. These are all of our copies here. You're going to see this is the poly frame, and then these ones are just copies of it that have properties. So if I go through here and I bend this first one, it'll make the other ones follow it. So no matter what you do to this instance, it'll follow it. If I want, I can go down here to, I don't want to convert it to a nanomesh. Let's just go up here to geometry, convert BPR to geo, and that'll make it real geometry. So now when I use a deformer like the bend curve deformer, it'll use all of these. So we can say, let's dial in the resolution. And it's like, well, it's going this way. So let's change that axis here. Let's make that resolution a little bit smaller here. So now I can use bend curve to kind of dictate where these things can end up going. That gets a little bit messy, so let's change it from a bend curve to a bend arc. I'm just going to kind of gently arc these things in kind of maybe this direction. And we can also just use our move brush here to kind of go through and kind of twist these things up. So use array mesh, use brush insert, all sorts of cool things that you can make. And you also go through here with your inflate brush. You can be like, I want these things to be a little fatter. You can also go through here to your deformation menu and inflate them all at once if you want to. And because you inserted them on this object, you have Dynamesh, so you can just re-Dynamesh everything if you want. And you can kind of start out there. And I like to keep things separate, so I can go through here and I can kind of like do a little build up. Let's do a let's go to my clay brush and we'll clone this off and we'll say drag dot, and we can go through here and we can kind of stamp. If you want to, go to transparency ghost and you'll be able to stamp right through here. Let's change that intensity up a little bit. You can go through here and you kind of stamp, like a little, how those things are going to enter into the skin and stuff like that. So Fun times, good stuff. And if we like this, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and merge this down. This can be one, and then I can duplicate this off, and we'll take this one, and we'll drop this down. We'll actually just take this one here, Control-Shift-A, delete hidden. Oops, we got this one. Let's turn that one off, so we're just viewing this one. Okay, yeah, so we're back where we started, like so. And then let's try something even crazier just to kind of loosen this up even more. Let's say I'm going to take this one here, and I'm going to go out of X symmetry, and we're going to do a quick mirror and weld. And you know what, let's do a mirror and weld in X and Y and see if anything, this can be kind of like maybe a weird little mouth, that little pincher, little predator mouth there. We can also try like mirroring, deformation mirror here, and maybe this could be, you know, something interesting. So you're always kind of looking for just a way to kind of, let's maybe stretch this out a little bit here. And since he's just kind of lumpy, he may not be overly entertaining to do a mirror and weld on. But you can also go in here to your alphas, so like your creature alphas and stuff. Go through here and just, let's turn off L and make this back to our drag rect here. So we can go through and just kind of deform. Let's turn on X symmetry here. Where's he at? Let's go to unify. You can also change the Z intensity if it is a little bit intense. You can go through here and just make, you know, hold down Alt. You can make minor modifications and see if anything kind of jumps out at you. And then you can also go in here to your trim brushes. It's dynamic. You have Dynamesh turned on. So really quickly, and also remember, if you get those little crumbly pieces, you can also go into Sculptors Pro, and that'll get rid of them as well. And you know what? Let's do a mirror in the Y here. And I'm going to rotate this forward. And if you want to, you know, let's do this. Let's hold down Control-Shift. Let's go ahead and isolate this little part here. I'm going to go ahead and do a split hidden, re-Dynamesh, tap this one, re-Dynamesh. And so now I've got two separate pieces. So then I can grab this one, and we can say, you know what, you're going to be the lower jaw. And you are going to be the upper jaw. And that also gives me a little bit of leeway. So we're still concepting, but it's not just kind of sculpting. You can go through here and kind of see how these things mix and match, like that reptile, that alligator type of face we were making earlier. We can go through here and again have a little bit more control. And if you want to, you can knock that resolution back, but I think this will work fine. It's not, if you're having a really hard time controlling your mesh, consider dropping your resolution down, but I think this resolution will be fine. And again, because we're splitting and adding and inserting on the same mesh here, it's inheriting all of the tool properties. So you're going to, you know, maintain all of that. And then you now when you tap through here, all of these things, let's go ahead and turn on transparency mode. Oh, we're using Snakehook 2, that's why. Snakehook 2 has a setting where it'll follow the surface normal, and then Snakehook doesn't have that setting enabled, so it's going to kind of... And again, there's nothing really special going on here as far as brushes I'm using or anything like that. It's standard brush, clay brush, maybe a little Damien standard, maybe a little clay buildup, maybe a little, I don't even know, smooth. Obviously we're still on smooth stronger. I'm going to crank that smooth stronger up a little bit. So on here, maybe he has like little inflatable brain sacks, like a little frog. So we can go through here and we can kind of play that up a little bit. And in fact, if we want that to be a separate mesh, let's try just grabbing a base primitive here. We can throw that in like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and do if you do split mask points, that's going to split everything down below it. If you do split unmasked points, that's under your split menu, by the way. and that'll throw that down here. So now these can be like his little air brain sac tubes. Kind of like, it seems like I've seen like maybe the Cloverfield monster or something like that. And then we alt tap. So I don't usually go through here and be like, let me rename these and find out where my subtools are. I'm just using what's on the screen and alt tapping it to kind of know where things are at. So anyway, like this jaw here, and you know, if you need a little bit more room, also if you want to kind of tilt his head down, you can go in here to manipulate all subtools, and you can move them all down here, and then turn that off. That'll save you some time there. Let's kind of bust this jaw out a little bit here. And if I want to grab the skin out, again, I can go back into, turn on Sculptors Pro. Let's grab Snake Sphere. And this one you can just kind of draw on, and it'll just make body parts just like that. You can also just grab like Snake Hook 2, and that'll follow the surface normal. So you can just quickly kind of pull out, or even just Snake Hook. And again, we're using Sculptors Pro this time. Kind of go through here and just kind of block in that bust. And then if you want, you can turn that off. You can re-Dynamesh everything, go back in your clay brush, and just continue working here. And again, I got reptile reference up. So that's why these are all kind of looking samey. So that's okay. It'll be like variations on a theme here. And then, you know, if I need a little bit more room back here for these sacks, let's say I want these sacks to be kind of down here, I can go through and I can mask this. And then we can just pop this little skull cap over. It kind of looks like a little Amadeus. And then, you know, speaking of skulls and armor and protection and stuff, you can go through here and you can kind of be like, okay, let's put a little bony plate along here, and then you can use all the stuff we've talked about as far as like, you know, going through here and dragging along those creature things. You know, let's just do that. Let's go back to our creature chisel brush, and we'll turn our Z intensity back up. We'll change this back to the dot stroke, and we'll make sure lazy mouse is turned on. So we can kind of just quickly go through here and just kind of give a little indication of a little bit of bony protective plating here. Up here, something like that. So if we're ready to start maybe taking this one a little bit further, you can, you know, again, up the resolution. And these teeth look a little bit lame. Go back. Yeah, that's really weird. That's really bizarre. And you know what I did do? When I was recording, when I was streaming on Pixelogic, I upped it to 1920 by 1080 just because when I go and I'm recording, I like to have the 1080 source, so I did up the Pixelogic stream. I've been 1920 by 1080 on my stream for a while, but maybe it's having an issue with that. I'm really not sure. I hope not, because 720p streaming for archival purposes is kind of lame, but if that is the case, I can drop it back down to 1280. It's bizarre though. I was having, I don't usually have streaming problems. Makes me think I have a hardware issue, which I don't like. I usually spare no expense when it comes to hardware just so I don't have issues. I don't like thinking about issues here. So this is kind of looking like a Star Trek creature. All those old Captain James Tiberius Kirk fighting some sort of weirdo little thing, which isn't a bad thing. He's a little hokey, but I kind of like that. He's kind of a little goofy looking. not a deal breaker for me. So again, I'm going to go back here, my clay brush, and we'll just use this to kind of build up a little bit here. And let's also take this piece here, and we'll say overlap. Go through here. There we go. And we'll cut this in. Anyway, just creature fun going through here. And, you know, at this point, if we did want to start refining him, this is where I would start going, okay, let's get real here. So I'm going to go through and grab a sphere for his actual eyeballs. So we have a placeholder here. And if you want to use these later as like his pupil direction and stuff like that, feel free to go through and rotate this around so that it is representative of where his eyes would be looking. And now we have that. Let's go ahead and split mask points, and then we can start dictating where this stuff is going to go. So we're going to crank that resolution up a bit, and you can just start sculpting eyelids here, and you can get the job done for a stylized, especially for stylized, but also for this too. You can also go into here and we can start making eyelids. So I'm going to duplicate this off, hold down Control Shift, and we're going to go to Trim Curve, and then we can just trim this top part off. And then we can go in here to inflate. We can inflate that. So now we have eyelids that we can have a little bit more control over where they go. And then same thing for the upper eyelids. Duplicate this off, go in here with our trim. Oops, trim this way. Inflate. And again, we're still concept-y, so I'm not overly worried about, you know, topology or anything like that. We can always ZBrush for topology if we want to and stuff, but this is fine. So we got eyelids. We can keep those separate if we want, or we can just merge these down to the head. I'm going to hold down Shift, shoot it to the top, Alt-tap this one, hold down Shift, bend up arrow, shoot it to the top, merge it down, Dynamesh, it'll inherit the Dynamesh properties. And now we got some eyelids here, and now we can go through here with our Damien standard. We can hold down Alt. We can pull out some eyelid thickness. And then again, let's go in here with our clay brush. I'm going to give it a little bit more room to kind of allow some of this to kind of flow through here. And you got a big, very big, and again, I always go through here, and my default is just humanoid. It's a crutch for me. Don't be like me. Be more creative than me. But I can go through here and kind of, again, because we have more resolution, and again, we're not going into Sculptus Pro or anything like that, but we can add a little more resolution. It's just a little too much resolution. I don't like fighting my mesh. I like going up slowly. And now we kind of got this kind of look going. And let's go ahead and crank up my Z intensity just a little bit on my standard brush, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my standard brush to kind of dig in and pull out where I want. Let's also rethink this a little bit here. Is there another reptile I can look at? I've been looking at the same crocodile forever. Oh, by the way, this is what I'm looking at. Just did a Google search for reptile. Maybe a little Komodo dragon might be a little bit more interesting. And I do like the Komodo dragons for their neck skin. That looks so cool. Like they got this big, thick. Let's go ahead and pull this out. Let's grab our clay brush here, and we'll even this out just a little bit here. So they got these big wrinkles that kind of flow through here, and then a big wrinkle down the side. It kind of goes up and over, so they got these big loose skin folds here. And if you know, this kind of thing down here too, where it would be like big places where they articulate, and then again along the back, just like we did on our previous one here. Any places you can indicate where things move, or where they bend a lot, where they turn and crease and bunch, little surface skin details, for sure put those in. And now, because we're getting a little more serious about where we want to take this one, we can start going in there with our insert mesh brushes. So instead of going through here and snake hooking this stuff out, we can go into let's go brush insert. Primitives, or I can just use my primitive brush here. I'm going to keep it relatively low. Let's say Z-sphere of 12. Go into solo mode, and we can say right along in here, let's pull in a little tooth, and I can just, let's embed these teeth a little bit. So I'm going to go down here to my brush, depth, and we'll bury these teeth a little bit. So as I'm dragging these out, whoops. As I'm dragging these out, we'll get little spheres. Now, of course, you can make teeth, but again, I'm super lazy. So keep my depth setting. What are you doing? Oh, you know what? I still have multi-mesh selector set to random. Set that to just stay with the one I pick. That's what happens when you're just explaining stuff and you're doing stupid stuff. Okay, so now I can go through here and, make these different sizes or whatever. If you want them to be all nice and consistent, you can. And then this will be my teeth here. And then, okay, he's got little knobby teeth, which is kind of a cute look. Kind of looks like that. Anybody remember that Dinosaurs TV show? Kind of looks like that. But what we're going to do is, this has all separate polygroups. I don't want to deal with this. You can do auto groups, but I'm just going to hold down Control Shift. If you start doing, trim curve was the last thing we used, tap Control. It'll go to select visibility temporarily, Control Shift A. Let's do a split hidden. So now his teeth are on a separate subtool. So now that the teeth are there, I'm going through here with Snake Hook. We're not going to do any Sculptors Pro. We can just simply go through here and really quickly just kind of pull these things out. And again, you can also make a tooth shape, but this will kind of free you up to kind of go in there and get a little variance really quickly. And I mean, you can set up insert mesh brushes that'll, like, again, you can put it along a curve, it'll randomly drag out teeth. You can get super fancy with this stuff. So don't think that this, any one thing I show you, I mean, obviously you guys know this, I don't need to explain it. But anything I show you, there's a million different ways to do it. I try and at least call it out when I'm thinking about it. But that's one way to do this. So this way, and then you can go up the lower jaw, and you can do that as well. But let's see. Oh, there's so many cool things. There's so much stuff you can pull from that are just really cool in nature. You can't lose. And you know what? Let's take this one here, and we'll kind of accentuate this brow ridge down. Make him a little bit more animal. And again, you can make, still at this stage too, it's not like we're locked in. We can go through and make like that little old man. Because we can always move that eyeball around. It's not a huge deal. In fact, let's turn that eyeball off temporarily so I can kind of freeze me up to see if there's anything. Yeah. So we like that better. I can just take these eyeballs and push them back in. Move brush. Something like that. Yeah, exactly. A little sad old dragon guy. And again, if you want to play around with that, did I turn off my eyeballs? There we go. You can certainly add more aggressive shapes and make him, whatever you want to make him. So again, we're just having fun. Doing our variants here, and let's go ahead and merge all these things together, and you can split them out later. It's not a huge deal. So we've got this guy, his head sacs go here. So if I want to make these all the same, since I've been kind of moving things around, they're not too bad. This one I'll just quickly move up into place here. You can also, since these are all nice and put together, you can say, if you do want to make them unified, and you're not too worried about maintaining their scale, I can go unify and then repeat to other. And then now they're all kind of stacked on top of each other. So we can go all the way back to our base mesh here, and we can start making any other cool things. So if we take this one here. But anyway, if you guys want me to do something else, let me know. This was just kind of an exercise I was doing for CGMA. But yeah, just let me know. We still have 45 minutes. And yeah, if you missed it under, well, hell, even under my Pavlovich workshop, if you go to my YouTube or Pixelogic's YouTube channel, we did the facilitating production. This was day 1 of that workshop that I did. It was like 3 days in a row. So what we did was the ZBrush Summit 2018 demos, 96 videos in there. Of course, you go to Livestream full episodes, you get the full demos worth. But essentially just walk it through there. Actually, there was one thing I wanted to do. One thing I forgot. Hold on just a second. Let me get that out of the way here. Streaming Summit. One thing I want to go over is way down here. So when we were making the shirts and the pants and the stuff for this character in particular, we kind of made this one, and then we started doing a little bit of refined stuff, you know, pouches and backpacks and stuff, so we can arrive at something a little closer to this here. But one thing I forgot is we went through and demoed this one. And I think I skipped this slide. So this is, again, like we did pants, we use ZBrush to do some heavy lifting for us. All this is going in here to like a cylinder here. Let's make Polymesh 3D. I'm going to scale this out, and this is just going to be a quick one. So we can scale this out here. Then we can also go back into our brush insert primitives here. I just grab a cylinder here. We go across X symmetry and pull out a cylinder. So you can hold down Control and drag out a copy, and just let go of Control and just keep dragging. It'll do those copies here. You can also, just like we did before, let's go ahead and do a split unmask point. So that'll throw this below. You can use array mesh. So we can go down here to our array mesh, hit W, hit Y, and then we can pull out a copy of this, and we can throw up the repeats. So however many repeats we want, and however far we want this to go out. And also, how big we want this thing. So I can go through here, and let's do a quick group by normals. I'm just going to push along the surface normal, Q mesh, polygroup island, and just hold down Shift, and we'll make those a little bit thinner. So if we like this, let's hit Y to go back to Gizmo, and then we can punch this all the way through. We can duplicate this off. We can continue using array mesh and offsetting it, but I'm going to make this a little bit simpler. We'll duplicate this off, and then we'll just go to Unmesh Mesh Center, and we'll rotate. So array meshes follow, and I'm just going to push this back as well. So, or maybe forward a little bit. Actually, we'll offset these, and then I'll take this one, and we will scale this out, give me a little more breathing room. So we have these things that are going to be punched through. Now I can make these. Let's convert BPR to Geo on these. I want to make them real geometry. So geometry, convert BPR to Geo, Alt tap this one, convert BPR to Geo, and then I'm going to merge these two down. And now with these ones we can do, you know, you can model these things. I'm just going to do a really quick crease polygroup, and then we'll turn on dynamic for dynamic subdivisions, and then same thing for this one. We'll just do a crease, geometry crease, and then give it a little bit of smoothness here. Let's also do an auto groups just to make it a little bit easier later on. So group by normals, not auto groups. So we've got these things here. If I turn this to this icon here, this little subtraction, turn on live Boolean. Now it'll go through and Boolean this mesh, which is fine. And if you want to, you can go down here to Boolean, dynamic subdivision, make Boolean mesh. It'll go ahead and make your union mesh. But let's say you wanted to continue modeling this, and you're kind of stuck with having this triangulated mesh here. So what I'm going to do is isolate this one, delete hidden. Let's go ahead and make sure we have X symmetry turned on, because what I'm going to do is zero mesh, depth size down to 0.5, and I'll go through and just reconstruct that geometry for me. So now we have nice geometry. So if we go through here and say Q mesh, polygroup all, we can give it some thickness. And we can also, I don't know if you guys do this anymore, but you can, let's go ahead and say mask pin. Let's unmask this area here. There's a transpose modeling you can do. You can also do this with the gizmo, but you can hold down Control and Shift, and you can pull along the surface normal, or you can hit Y to go back into gizmo mode, and you can hold down Control. And this, so you can hold down Control, and then you can hold down Control, and you can hold down Control. Also, just like when you're dragging out copies, you can hold down Control, drag out a little bit, and then let go of Control, and then just keep adding edge loops. So now you can go through here, and you can say like Q mesh, or I'm sorry, polygroup. Let's say we want these, and these ones you can just pull through. This is what I love about Q mesh, is you can just get rid of geometry. But you can also, you know, add rings here, and then you can do maybe an inset polygroup all, maybe inset again, and then Q mesh polygroup all, hold down Shift and pull this down. So all sorts of, you can continue modeling. And here, let's go ahead and just do a crease PG, or maybe a crease tolerance, dynamics, crease level 3, smooth as before. And you can continue modeling. You can use ZModeler and ZRemesher in conjunction with each other to kind of arrive at that final shape, without having to worry about like, let me figure out how to get these shapes to resolve nicely on a cylinder, because that can be a nightmare. At least it is for me. Love seeing more hard surface concepting and cleanup techniques. Yeah, that's just kind of rebuilding stuff. We can do some of that. Not a problem. Make a house, wood and stone walls, straw roof. What kind of workflows? Drop Maya because I spend most of the time in ZBrush anyway. Yeah, for house and stuff, one I can point you to exactly how I would do it, which would be, it was Joseph Drust. He did a Nanomesh stone bridge, and I think Paul Gabriel did too. Maybe it's this one. Oh, actually, bam, it's a house. So let's watch this together. So you can go through here and you can make Nanomesh, and you can kind of make the shapes, and you got bricks and you got stone. So once you set up your base forms, you can go through here and you can use Nanomesh and thatched roof. So you can go through here and use Nanomesh to kind of populate walls, use tiles to populate the roof, use thatching to populate the roof. You can use live Boolean, it looks like, or surface noise, or no, it's Nanomesh. You can use Nanomesh with no Z variance in your height to kind of get a stucco type look. Bam, look at that. I think I got you covered. Well, I think Drust, or whoever's doing this, got you covered. Try that on for size. So now in this case, so when you're doing an array mesh, I can explain that a little bit better. I use BPR to Geo, so we have this one here, and we go down here to array mesh, and we hit transpose, and we use transpose to like make an array mesh here, and then we can change our repeats. So you can go down here to make mesh, and that'll just make it a mesh. Nanomesh, I guess Nanomesh is what got me. So let's do this. I'll show you the Nanomesh make BPR Geo. So instead of using make mesh, you can do BPR to Geo, and what that is if we go down here, for example, to our Nanomesh here. We got to make it Polymesh 3D, and then go down here to our Nanomesh. There we go. So Nanomesh. By default, if you hover over a face and you're in your ZModeler brush, BZM, you can do insert nanomesh, single poly, or polygroup all. And in fact, if I want to simplify this, I can. You can do the initialize primitive, but what I like to do also is go to geometry, reconstruct a couple times, delete higher, and now you're going to drag a cube on every surface because that's what's loaded. You can also go in here, you can hit M. Anything you have in here, you can make. In fact, if we hit M and we grab that little thing we were doing, we can just nanomesh that mesh if we want to. It's kind of up to you. You can also do nanomesh tiling. There's a tiling plugin that's really good. In fact, on my YouTube channel and on Pixologic YouTube, there's the nanotile textures. This is a really cool plugin for doing tiling textures with nanomesh. But essentially what we're going to do is, let's hit M. So we're going to do a polymesh 3D on here, and then if you start dragging again and hold down shift, it'll drag out a new nanomesh. You can also go in here to BI brush insert industrial parts, and then under the brush menu here you can say create insert nanomesh brush. So now when I hover over face, and that just throws a new brush down here. So if I hover over a face and we hit spacebar, insert nanomesh polygroup all, and now I have all of these I can pull from for nanomesh. Let's select this one, and again if you pull on, it's going to replace that nanomesh. You're going to see my nanomesh indices don't change. However, if I drag on here and hold down shift, it will. Or if we have polygroup all and we hold down alt and we start dragging, and then let go, we have two polygroups here. Hold down alt, start dragging, and then tap alt again, and we can cycle through. Alternatively, you can hold down alt, start dragging, tap shift, and that'll inherit that polygroup. Hold down alt, start dragging, tap shift, and that'll go through and inherit that polygroup. You can also hover over a face and do polygroup, single poly, and you can do that as well. But alt's a little bit easier. There you go. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, or well, I don't know how many polygroups we have. So if we go to insert nanomesh polygroup all, now it's only going to insert on that. And then if I go in here and change this, it's only going to insert on that, and then we have two indices. However, and this also changes. So we go here, and then we choose another one, and we go here, and we choose another one, and we go here. And you're like, you know what? I want these shapes somewhere else. All you got to do, again, hold down alt, start painting that polygroup. It's going to disappear because, again, you inserted that nanomesh on a red polygroup. However, you tap shift, that'll inherit the red properties, and now you can go through here and paint these where they go. And these are just instances, so no matter where those planes go, those are going to follow because they're just nanomesh. They're instances on assigned to those face properties, polygroups. So, but alternatively, you can also, let's hit Control W, make it all one polygroup. Nanomesh disappears. So if we do Insert Nanomesh Polygroup All, we pull out one, and then we go grab our new Z modeler brush that has all these cool things in it, and then we grab this one and we hold down Shift. That'll make a nanomesh on top, and then you can scatter both of these. So we have two indices, and you can do whatever you want to with this. You can say like do a pattern here, and you can, oh, you know what? It's not going to do it. Well, no, it should. Let me see. Pattern, H tile. That's what. So we'll do H tile of 2, V tile of 2, pattern of 1, and we'll say corners, and we'll take the size down. So you can actually put bolts in the corners of every single one of these. You can say border, and then we'll say the pattern H tile of 3, 4, H tile of 4 here, and let's go to index 0. I'm going to delete these. Oh wait, no, we'll go to index 1 and we'll say hide others. So there we go. So you can kind of play around with this. And this is on grid. Let's do corners. Let's do border. So you can kind of do that type of thing. Or you can take your H tiles and V tiles back down. And then we can do not hide others. So now we've got 2 nanomesh, and you can do nanomesh stacked on top of each other forever. You can also go here to random distribution if you want to do like straw or rocks or river rocks or something like that. Go back to index 0, we'll do random distribution. So now we have 2 indices. So what you can do is you can go down here to inventory and you can say 1 to mesh, 1 to mesh, 1 to mesh, 1 to mesh, and it'll go through your indices and convert that. However, you can also go up here to geometry, convert BPR to geo, and it'll go ahead and convert that to geometry. Now another way that happens, another useful one for BPR to geo, is if we go over here to our cube, yeah, it's fine. Make polymesh 3D. Go in edit mode. Let's go ahead and initialize this as a Q-cube. And we'll go ahead and subdivide this a couple times. You can go in here to surface, noise. And let's see if we can't go into noise plug. And we'll do, what's a good one? I don't even know. Hex tile maybe? Sure. Hit OK. And then we can go here, we'll do mix basic noise down to 0, plug in scale down, strength, we'll crank that up. And yeah, that'll work. So we'll go ahead and here, if you change this offset to a little smaller number, it'll actually punch through. So if you hit OK, that'll give us this result. And then, you know, you can turn your noise on and off. You can go in and edit your noise. But if we go to BPR, this will give you a best preview render of what it would look like actually making those changes that we did. And did we, yeah, we subdivided this. Let's do a couple more. Let's go back in here to edit. So you're getting a preview render of what it would look like, and if you want to convert that to real geometry, again, you can just go up here to geometry, convert BPR to geo, and that'll make that surface noise actual geometry. So now we have real geometry here. That kind of stuff. Is crease adding actual geometry? No, it's just controlling those edges. However, you can use both. So if you have a cylinder here, make polymesh 3D, and you want to go through here and say, okay, you know what, if you want to get rid of these lines without going to initialize geometry, edge loop, delete loops will do that for you. So now you can go to here, insert single edge loops, we'll put in here and here, and then we'll say polygroup, poly loop, and then we'll do an inset polygroup all, and then we'll say QMesh polygroup all, pull this out. And again, we're just pulling along that surface normal, holding down shift. We'll run a crease tolerance here, hit dynamic, and now it's nice and creased. So you can go through here, I'll say crease level of 3, smooth subdiv of 4, and that's all underneath the crease menu here. And then dynamic subdiv, smooth subdiv of 4, and this is why I have a custom menu. So you can go through here and you can dial in how the creases affect it, but let's say, then you can do Shift D. So D goes into dynamic, Shift D takes it out. So I'm going to go through here, we'll do another insert. And we'll do another polygroup. And we'll do another, this time we'll do a QMesh, we just QMesh out. Or you can QMesh in, doesn't matter. Oh, and also you can go through here, you can say bevel, edge loop complete, and then you can go in here to like insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation, and you can round this corner out a little bit. So you've got that. Now let's go ahead and just do a groups by normals just so I can see my polygroups. And then at this point you can also do a crease PG under your crease menu. And you can hit D for dynamic. It'll inherit your dynamic property so you can get that kind of look. But let's say, you know what? I want this to have it's still too sharp and everything's too even. I want more control over that. So what you can do, and you can be in dynamic while you do this, you can hover over this, you can say crease, edge loop complete, hold down Alt, and you can uncrease this. So now it's uncreased, which is, you know, giving you those average vertices between those 2 points, and then just simply go in here to insert single edge loop, and as you pull down, it'll tighten up that corner there, so you can just kind of dictate exactly that fall off that you want. Then when you do Shift D, you're going to see you just inserted an edge loop here and an edge loop here, and you're good to go. Or if you want to control it even more, you can, now that you have those control curves, you can go through here, insert single edge loop, hold down Alt, and then again insert multiple edge loops, interactive elevation, and you can build in that curvature however you'd like. So group by normals, crease PG, dynamic, something like that. To use decimated geo from ZBrush and Substance Painter seems to give me noticeable artifacts. Yeah, all the time. So if you go to YouTube, Livestream full episodes, this Sci-Fi Pistol series, this speed modeling and texturing Sci-Fi Pistol series, all of this stuff is essentially just decimated meshes, auto UV'd and thrown into Painter. And I do get some artifact. It's not perfect. It's not like, oh, just decimate it, bake it, and it'll be the most beautiful game res you've ever seen in your life. There's tricks you can get to alleviate some of those errors, but it's never going to be as good as manually retopologizing. However, manually retopologizing can take you hours, days, weeks to do, as opposed to 15 minutes to get something in-game representative of what you want to look like. So you got to kind of weigh what you're getting out of it and how much time you want to spend and what area and production you're working in. So the long and short answer is yes, I do. And then also, if you're interested, for, you know, you can go also through ZBrush, go Z to Houdini, do all that kind of stuff, and then pop it out. That's another thing to do. So the Houdini game dev toolset is exactly that process, is starting in ZBrush and then going through. Yeah, forest ground textures. And Joseph Dress did that too way back in, I think, ZBrush 4R7 or R8. I forget which one. But yeah, he did like a scattered pine needles and then leaves and all that kind of stuff. I'm not much on environment art type tiling stuff, but I dabble. Might be a really stupid question. How would you make those ridges like on Colossus body? Panel loops, I assume? That's not a stupid question. That's actually, there's a couple different ways you can go about that. One way, and this goes back to the Pixelogic channel, if you go to my workshop, Pavlovich workshop here, I'll link you guys to that. You can use panel loops for sure. And in fact, on this sci-fi lady, let's go ahead and load her up. Let's load this one up. I do something kind of similar. It's a little bit more like a Crytek tech suit looking thing. But we can make a quick Colossus maybe. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, because yeah, you can use UVs and surface noise to do that. But you'd probably want a little bit more control. Let's go ahead and turn this off here. So for example, kind of like this ribbed look we're getting in here on this, like this little tech suit body armor stuff. If I go down here to subdivision level 1, you're going to see this was just basically taking her shape and then slicing through, and then panel loops. And honestly, I think I tried to do panel loops and slicing, and it didn't work quite as well as I wanted, so I did manually retopologize that and then go through and extrude these things like so. So now when you go up here, you can see, you know, that's the kind of look we're getting for these kind of ribbed under bodysuit things. But that's essentially how I would attack, you know, making like a Colossus arm. So let's give it a shot. Let's see if we can do this here. Let's test my limits. Making a Colossus arm. So I'm gonna grab the safe for work Nick Z, and we're gonna hold down Control Shift, and I'm gonna, you know what? Let's do a trim. I'm gonna trim everything off, but this arm here, because this is all we need for proof of concept. So you know what? We'll even keep these polygroups here, because I think that might come in handy. Let's hit Control W. So if you do, let's do a ZBrush, same, keep groups. So to go through, let's turn off X symmetry. Let's see what this gives us. Yeah, that'll work. So another thing you can do is you can go through here, and it's like if you're getting concentric rings around here, you can go through and say, let's say bevel as it complete. So we'll bevel. Whoa! Oh, it gave us. Oh no, just up here it did. Let's see where those. So we can go through here and we can like bevel maybe every other one. And it's giving us a new polygroup every time. Not a huge deal, but if you did want to Q-mesh these later, you can do that. You can hold down Control-Shift, isolate this polygroup, Control-Shift-Drag, get rid of this one, and then hit Control-W. That'll group all these. So now you can go through here and we can do like inset polygroup. So we'll inset all of these, and then we'll do a Q-mesh. You don't have to inset. I'm used to insetting because I hate 90-degree cuts. So then you can go through here and you can do like crease polygroup, and then again crease level 1, smooth subdiv of 3 or something like that. That'll kind of give you that kind of thing. But now this requires you to have your topology laid out perfectly, right? So your mileage may vary on that one. Well, that's one technique. Again, like surface noise you can try, but your UVs have to be laid out. So you'd have to UV this thing so the arm's straight out, and then you can go through with surface noise and have the surface noise lines kind of dictate. But then you'd have to match your seams up, so that can be kind of tough. Yeah. And if you did have like arbitrary geometry like this, let's give it a little more resolution here, like so. Let's unify this so I know what my resolution is actually meaning here. If you do use Dynamesh a lot, go to Dynamesh Master. I'm not sure if this comes loaded with ZBrush or not, but Google ZBrush Pixologic downloads, and that'll give you more. You can go and install those. So, and on my YouTube channel, we talk a lot about that. So if you do want to do like maybe this, so you can do a slice curve, and you can do slice curve, and let's offset these just a little bit perfectly, but that's kind of a pain. So instead, let's hold down spacebar, hit B radius, and now I can just slice through. And that'll give us a little brush radius of what our slices are going to be. And then after you've made your slices, you can tell ZBrush, and let's trim this off so we have, whoops, let's turn off B radius with that trim. So now you have polygroup back here, and then all these have polygroups. So now instead of making your geometry perfect and then cutting through, you can actually have ZBrush go through here, and you can say, let's turn off Dynamesh. We'll go to ZBrush, slice down a little bit, let's say half, keep groups. And then that'll give you new geometry, and now you can go through here and you can isolate, say, these ones. Control W. And now you have, so we can do an inset here, and then a Q-mesh here. So you have a Dynamesh, and then you slice through to get your geometry, ZBrush it. You don't even have to ZBrush. I guess you could extract it with the smoothness, but I like working with clean geometry. I don't like working with non-clean geometry. So maybe that's another option for you. Again, not a dumb question. There's a lot of different ways to skin that cat. In fact, there's probably a more elegant way that I'm not thinking about right now. Oh, cool, perfect, yeah. Paul Gabriel, did you know that? You know what, let me see if I can, I know Nightbot may not allow that. Let me see if I can grab that for you. Yeah, I'll link you directly to that. Thank you, Video Nomad. So for everybody else, there's that link. It's too easy. HD geometry, it's still a black box for many. Morph targets, layers, displacement. For me, I don't use a lot of HD geometry, but that video link, I just linked you guys. Did you know that episode 15 is all about HD geo? I never use it. I know it exists. I know how it works, but it's not anything that comes up in my production. As also like 32-bit displacement, I don't use a whole lot of. So I'm in game development, so that stuff never really comes up all that much. Morph targets and stuff and layers, I did put out, probably it's buried now. If you type in blend shape, ZBrush Maya Blend Shapes plugin. That'll kind of take you through the layers and blend shape stuff, which is fun. It's fun to make blend shapes in ZBrush. And you can also hit a button and it'll set it all up for you in Maya too. Cool. Yeah, if you have clean geo, then see if you can't use that geometry to dictate where your bevels go and you can cut in. Is there a way to make the parts overlap like the pants? Yeah, you should be able to. What specifically? As far as, let me see if I can delete this here, because we don't need that anymore. Yeah, so when we were doing pants just the other day, in fact, if we go here to ZBrush Summit 2018 demos, we did pants, we did shirts, so the pants block out, we did a shirt block out, we did the fishnet on the shirts, we did little ribbed clothing, holes in clothing, and also in here somewhere is a backpack pouch type thing, and you can just search, not Google search, but just search here for pouch, for example. And here's the backpack pouch blockout we did, mag pouch blockout, accessory pack creation with panel loops. In fact, this tech suit ribbing, oh, did I already do this? Okay, so so the Colossus thing is kind of like what we did too. Here's how I did kind of the tech suit ribbing in ZRemesher. So let me link you to that. That might be worthwhile. Kind of the same deal. Sorry to spam you guys with all these links here. So, oh yeah, we were gonna do hard surface cleanup techniques. So if we have a guy here and we want to make some armor, so one thing I'll do sometimes is let's turn off everything except for him. We'll duplicate him off and we'll do an inflate of like -1. Oh, and Hannibal, let me know the pants overlap part, what you mean by that. I'm not, make the parts overlap like the pants. I'm not sure what that means exactly. And then, so now that we've got that, we can go through and we can kind of sculpt through here, and it's just a way to kind of give you a visual representation of where your armor might go as you're kind of sculpting up armor. If you want to sculpt armor, you don't have to sculpt armor. You can just start making it if you want to, but sometimes it's nice to get in here and kind of block out something like maybe a shoulder pad or something like that. So we'll do a shoulder pad, for example, and then you can smooth this out. You can go in here to your standard brush. You can pull up a lip up here. We'll give this make it a little bit thicker, and then we'll go into our clay brush and we'll build this up. And you know, I have my clay brush settings for like anatomy build up, so if you don't like that, just turn that alpha off, drop that intensity down, and then we'll be back here. So I don't know, whatever kind of shoulder pad you want to make. Now you could retopologize this manually, really, with Z-spheres or whatever, or you can say, you know what, let's refine this a little bit. So I'm going to go through here. I'll mask it out like so. Hold down, we'll hold down Control Alt and we'll tap to sharpen that mask up. We'll hit Control W, isolate this. I'm going to run a close hole. Oops, isolate that geometry modified geometry modified topology delete hidden. I only say that a million times a day. And then we have polygroups here. Hit W, Control tap this. Let's hit Y to go back to our gizmo. And then we can give ourselves a little breathing room, or maybe even scale this in a little bit if we want to. Control drag again. I got a little Dynamesh, whoops, a little Dynamesh shoulder pad here. You can also do like polish by features. You can go through and slice, whatever you want to do. But this is more of just like concepting your shape out. So we're not really refining it just yet. But if you did want to refine this, you can use you know, ZRemesher or manual retopologizing to do that. And again, we're talking a really simple shape, so it's not like we couldn't just use topology brush and do this. But for example, if we did want to say, you know what, I want to make a shoulder pad like this, and we've spent a lot of time concepting it. So you can, what I would probably do in this case, instead of like retopologizing and getting that, I would keep this around as a proxy just to kind of match. And then I'm going to go through here and I'll mask that upper bound of that geometry here, like so. And in fact, if I want to make this, again, I can use, let's get a little bit fancy here. Geometry, edge loop mask border, that'll slice through nicely here, but I also want this piece to go along with that. So I'm going to do auto groups, and I'm going to grab these two let's just do a quick mirror and weld. I'm going to grab these two polygroups here, hit Control W, delete hidden, and now that that's sliced through, I can do ZRemesher, and the reason I like to have a slice is it just makes ZRemesher. If you do something like this and you hit Control W and then you try to ZRemesh this, it's going to look at those aliased edges. It's a little bit nicer if you can clip or slice or do a deformation polish by features to clean that up a little bit. So when you go to ZRemesh half, it'll go ahead and give you reasonable geometry. Now you can help ZRemesher out if you want to be. I'll use Move AcU to kind of pull these things out to corners, like so, and then ZRemesher will, and let's say we want this to be rounded over here, but maybe pulled to corners. So now when we ZRemesh, it'll look at that and evaluate these sharp corners for you. So again, letting ZRemesher do some of the heavy lifting. There we go. So now we have representative geometry. Now if we go through here and we say QMesh, polygroup all, and we pull backwards, it's going to flip my normals. That's okay. We can flip those back. That's under display properties here. You can flip those back around. And then now we have armor here. So now we can do an inflate if you want, or you can just say QMesh polygroup all and hold down shift and pull along those surface normals. So for any of these, and let's do a quick group by normals, mirror and weld. And then again, you can hold down shift and just pull right along these surface normals to kind of match up your original, your original concept here. And then you can go in here to crease by polygroup, crease level 3, smooth subdiv of 4, and now we've got a representative armor thing, but it's like, oh, you know what, in my original, this was curved. If you want to see that a little bit better, let's Alt-tap this. Let's go into solo mode, and let's put these armor pads up here. So I'm going to say Shift-S, that's a snapshot, Shift-S, Shift-S, and then go out of solo mode. So now I've got my new armor pads up here, my concept sketch underneath it, and also a visual representation of what I want it to look like. So if we don't need these original concept sketches anymore, we can just delete them. And then now we can look at this and go, you know what, on this corner here, it was actually rounded. So we can go through here and we can say crease edge with complete, or crease edge, hold on Alt. And also, these pads are kind of thick. I want them to not be embedded in his body so much. QMesh, polygroup all, hold down shift, and then we'll just push along that surface normal. A little bit thinner here. And again, like I said before, we can go BTO and then the topology brush, and you can just use the topology brush to kind of go through here and make an armor plate. So we go ahead and split mask points, and then you can use that as a start for your armor plating too. Might be a little bit faster. Same thing for straps if you wanted to. Let's go ahead and delete those. Let's do this. Let's put a ring right in the middle. We'll go ahead and split mask points. We'll go ahead and inflate this. And let's say we want to put a strap from here to here. Let's go back to our body here. Let's go BTO, brush, BTO, topology brush. Let's go into transparency mode. We can just go strap here to strap here. And we're going to say we want a strap. And the reason I went into ghost mode is so that it's just sticking to the skin. If you're not, and this is a feature, so if you do want it to like follow and kind of go over the objects, then make sure you're not in ghost mode, so this strap will actually wrap around this thing right here. But in this case, I don't want it to. So transparency ghost mode, we'll put a strap here, and we'll put a strap here, and we'll say you are going to be a strap someday. Now you can use an insert mesh brush strap, that's fine. Let's go ahead and split mask points here. But what I'm going to do is, it's a fairly simple strap. Let's go ahead and make this strap a little thinner. And when you did your topology brush, your brush size dictates the thickness of it. But we can also just change that on the fly. So we've got our strap here, and it's on our body, and we want it to say like loop over this thing here, or maybe even like loop through a little slot in here. So let's do this. Let's say it goes into, let's say bevel, edge loop complete here. Let's say QMesh, a single poly. Let's poke a hole through here. Like so. So there's a little hole it can go through. Let's say crease here, and then this thing here. So if we have an extra one here, let's like QMesh single poly. And then now we want this strap to loop through this hole and then also loop around this little donut thing right there. So in order to make that happen, we can get this to loop around and maybe button. Let's also make this a little thinner say QMesh polygopal. Like so. So we wanted to loop around, so I'm going to hold down Alt and paint these ones here, and then we're going to QMesh this and hold down Control and pop out a copy, like so. And then we'll make this a little thinner. Oops. There we go. And then if we want to loop these, we'll go up here and we'll say delete, single poly, and then bridge, 2 holes. We'll use a spline, that should be fine. We'll use a spline, that should be fine. And then we'll loop that through, and then BI brush insert clothing parts, snap assembly, and we'll put a little snap here so that he has a little button. We'll go ahead and split mask points here. So now on here we can say dynamic, and we can crease it if we want to, and we can refine this a little bit, you know, where we want these things to pull through and overlap. And if you want these to be like a little more rounded, you can go, let's say, crease edge. We can uncrease these edges here. And then if you want to tighten these up, you can go through here and you can say insert single edge loop, and you can tighten up those corners if you want to. Up to you. So that could be one way. Okay, let's see. It's possible to record a series of various actions in a layer, array mesh, transpose, intermesh, etc., and then paste all the actions on another mesh. Same with lower poly. Okay, wait. Paste all of those actions on another mesh. The same with a lower poly and UV from another software and get them at the same position. Like, you could use a wrap deformer, but that wouldn't be a ZBrush thing. I'm not sure about that one. Sorry, I wish I had a better answer. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around. So you have array mesh, transpose, intermeshes, and then you want all of those to be transported to another. Yeah, that would be, I mean, what I would do in Maya would be use a wrap deformer. So you have all these objects and you have 2 different base meshes, and then you can use a lattice deformer, but it's a wrap deformer. So as long as the vert order doesn't change, you can use a wrap deformer to take all those pieces and then wrap it to another size object. I'm not sure how to do that in ZBrush. My brain isn't really working that great, so someone might have an elegant solution for that, but why 3D's not making videos anymore? Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't talked to Ricky in a long time. I assume everything's okay. 3 layers on a subtool. I smooth on one record mode. Smooths not only that layer content, but also one above. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so. So one way to avoid that is, even if you're not going to be making blend shapes, if you go through here and you say, you can still use the plugin, and that'll ensure that everything's turned off here. So when you do go to, what's it called? It's called Maya Blend Shapes. So when you say, and you're in here and you're in your layers, you can say make a new layer, and then it's in record mode, and then you're in here and you're recording what you're doing. And then if you say make a new layer, it'll turn the other one off. So yeah, it's not going to be an additive thing for you. So make a new layer, make a new layer, and then you can turn off all, and then all of them will be turned off. And then when you go back through, these layers won't interfere with these layers, because yeah, if you do have one layer turned on, these are all additive. So, you know, this one's off. So this one I pulled through these verts, but if I turn this one on, you can see these are going to be double transformed, because these are linear interpolated, which means the vertices go from point A straight to point B, and also they're additive. So as you're going down the layer stack, it's adding those transformations on those vertices to each other. But yeah, when you use Maya Blend Shapes, the new layer will automatically turn everything off, so you don't run into that issue. And then you can just tap off and you're out of record mode, and then. Oh, so Hannibal says, when you said the Colossus thing in X-Men, the arm looked banded, whereas the pants look like parts that someone overlapped. Oh, yeah. Let's take a look at that. I mean, yeah, you can do that, and if you were going to do that, I would say, oh, you know what? I remember deleting that arm. That's okay, we'll just recreate this. So let's say, and let's use another part of the body. Let's double tap this one, hide here, edit. And since these already have polygroups, I can say, give me this. Oh my goodness. And this, and this, and this, and all these toes. Delete hidden, go to X symmetry, delete hidden, close holes. So let's say we have something like this and we want to have like overlapping plates. That's where I would probably go through and do, let's do slice curve, B radius, and make our brush size big. I would do something like, just to give me a little bit more geometry. I know I'm speaking in half sentences here, give me a second. So edge loop, panel loops. If you do, let's turn that polish all the way down. So we'll do panel loops here. And if you don't want it to like inflate the model, take that elevation down to 0 or even -100, and then it'll just panel loops inwards. You can also use panel loop presets if you haven't used that yet. So Z plugin, panel loop presets. I went over that in the 2018 stuff, or in the ZBrush Summit 2018 thing. But even here, let's do a quick, let's duplicate this off. I'm going to say depth size down, half, keep group, Z-remesher. Let's do same. And then smooth groups down to 0. There we go. So ignore those toes, but at least I get nice, a little bit cleaner geometry so that when I go through and I do the panel loops, number one, to give me panel loops, we have double turned on, and because of that, if I do Control Shift A, that'll have a separate group. So now if I go in here to say, you can go in here, brush, move, topological BMT or something like, oh, it's already 8 o'clock. I gotta go. But if we go in here really quickly to brush, auto masking. Oh, you know what? I also have a dentist appointment, so I really have to go. I usually just go downstairs and work out, but all right, everybody. So we're gonna go into auto masking here and turn on topological. And then now you can go through here and you can make these plates overlap, or you can go through here and say, you know, Control Shift A, mask, invert that. And then you can kind of pull these things over or use your gizmo. Let's go to Unmesh, Mesh Center here. And we can like scale these out. Or you can maybe mask half, Control Tap to blur that mask, and now you can just, you know, kind of scale these out. Or you can split all these and use a taper. So let's go to geometry, split to parts, and then each one of these here you can throw, go to Unmesh Mesh Center, you hold down Alt, and then you can try maybe a taper deformer and see if you can't like taper and move down maybe. So cool. All right, I gotta head out, everybody. Sorry if I missed anybody. If the, oh yeah, the retopo lines don't close, go through and do a stitch and then mirror and weld like we did earlier in the episode. That does happen sometimes, you're right. Yeah, and Z repeat, it's another good one. Cool. Sorry about that, everybody, with the whole crashing live stream. I gotta go get my teeth cleaned. So take it easy. I'm gonna throw this up on my YouTube channel, and then at least we get an uninterrupted stream after I get back. So